welcome to The Explainer. If you're in any kind of management role, you know that understanding what drives people isn't just a skill, it's pretty much the whole game. So today, we're doing a crash course on motivation and performance. We're going to break down what really drives us at work and how you can build environments where people don't just show up, but actually thrive.
All right, let's just dive right in. This is the question, right? Every manager, every team lead, and let's be honest, every one of us who wants to do well, we ask this. And the answer? It's so much deeper than just, work harder or be more motivated.
To really get to the heart of what makes for great performance, you have to understand it's not just one thing. It's more like a formula, a puzzle with these different but totally essential pieces that have to lock together.
So here's the crucial takeaway. Motivation is absolutely vital, no question, but it's only 1/3 of the puzzle. You could be the most fired up, motivated person in the world, but if you don't have the skills, the ability, or if you're in a terrible environment, the context, you're just not going to hit your peak. It's like a world-class swimmer isn't going to win a marathon, right? Wrong context.
Okay, so we've got the big picture. Now let's zoom in on that really interesting piece, motivation. What is it exactly? Well, for decades, thinkers have been trying to crack this code, and their ideas usually fall into two big camps.
So on one side, you have the need-based theories. These basically argue that we're all wired with these internal needs, things like security, feeling like we belong, and achieving our potential. And we're motivated to do things that satisfy them. But then, on the other side, you have the process-based theories. They say, hang on, it's more of a conscious thought process. It's about how we think about things, like calculating effort, rewards, and especially fairness.
One of the biggest process theories you've got to know is VIE theory, or expectancy theory. It breaks our motivation down into this simple three-part mental checklist we all run through. First is expectation. If I actually try hard, will I do well? Then comes instrumentality. Okay, if I do well, will I actually get something for it? And finally, valence. Do I even want that reward? Now here's the key. If the answer to any of those is a 0, your motivation is 0. The whole chain just falls apart.
And that idea of getting what you deserve brings us to another huge process theory, one that taps into something really deep inside all of us. And that's equity theory. It's all built on this fundamental idea that we are absolutely wired to seek out fairness.
What's so fascinating is how this flowchart kind of shows the mental math that we're all doing all the time, probably without even realizing it. We take our outcomes, our pay, any praise we get, and we weigh them against our inputs, how hard we work, our experience. But here's the critical part. We then do the exact same calculation for someone else, a coworker, and we compare our ratio to their ratio. If they feel balanced, great, that's equity. But if they don't, we feel inequity, and that feeling drives us to act.
Yeah, and that feeling of inequity, that sense that things aren't fair, it creates this really powerful psychological tension. It's a feeling of being wronged that just gnaws at you, and it motivates you to do something to restore the balance. Maybe you start slacking off to match your low pay, or you march into your boss's office and ask for that raise. And in some cases, you just say, forget this, and you leave.
Okay, so we've got needs, we've got processes, we've got fairness. How does this all fit together in our heads? Well, it turns out our minds are pretty good at integrating all of this. We don't really treat them as separate things. We kind of blend them into one big decision-making framework that determines if we're going to give something our all or just phone it in.
This model basically maps out that step-by-step internal conversation. It starts with that expectancy question, if I put in the effort, will I actually perform well? Then it moves to instrumentality, and if I perform well, will I get rewarded? Then it brings in that all-important equity check. Are those rewards fair compared to what others are getting? And finally, it circles all the way back to our needs. Do these rewards even matter to me? Do they satisfy what I need? It's only when you get a solid yes all the way down that line that you unlock maximum effort.
All right, so that's a whole lot of theory on what makes people tick. But if you're a manager, you're probably asking, okay, great. So what do I do with this? How can you actually design a job to put all this powerful theory into practice?
Well, there are 3 common strategies, and they kind of build on each other. The simplest is job rotation. You just move people between boring tasks to break up the monotony. A step up from that is job enlargement, where you give them more tasks to do. But job enrichment, that's where the real magic is. You're not just adding more work, you're adding better work. You're giving people more control, more autonomy, more responsibility.
And while those 3 strategies are really useful tools to have in your toolbox, if you want the gold standard, the most complete blueprint for building motivation right into the fabric of a job, you need to know about the job characteristics model. This model is amazing because it lays out the whole chain reaction for you. It starts on the left with 5 core things you can design into any job. Things like skill variety, so people aren't doing the same tiny thing over and over. Task identity, which means they get to see a project through from start to finish. And autonomy, giving them the freedom to decide how they do their work. When you bake those things in, you create these powerful psychological states in the middle, like the feeling that your work is meaningful, and the feeling that you're personally responsible for the outcomes.
And the result of creating those psychological states? The payoff? Well, it's everything an organization could possibly want. You get employees who aren't just motivated by a paycheck or fear of being fired, but by the work itself. And that leads directly to higher quality performance, much higher job satisfaction, and people sticking around longer.
So let's lock in the big takeaways here. Number 1, performance is a formula. You need ability, motivation, and the right context. Number 2, motivation is complex. It's a blend of our deep-seated needs and our rational thought processes. 3, never, ever underestimate the power of fairness. It's a non-negotiable. And finally, the most sustainable, powerful motivation doesn't come from a bonus. It comes from the work itself. Making jobs better isn't just a nice perk. It's a core performance strategy.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. As AI and automation start taking over all the routine, predictable tasks, what's left for us humans is the creative work, the complex problem solving. So the question is, how are we going to have to adapt these classic models of motivation for a future of work that we're all still trying to figure out?